Hi, I'm Dr. Randy Ross, and this is Relationomics, where we talk about everything related to business, life, and relationships. It's my privilege today to have a good friend, Chris Carneal, on to join us. Chris is a young entrepreneur who started an organization called Booster Enterprises, and Booster Enterprises has taken a whole different spin on fundraising for schools. I think you're going to find it rather fascinating, but more importantly than that, we're going to be talking about culture and leadership development in any organization that will take you to the top tier and not only being able to attract, but to retain top talent. So thanks for joining us, and we're going to grow together. Hey, Chris, man, thanks for being with us today.
Randy, thanks for having me. Fun opportunity.
I got to tell you, in all candor, you're one of my favorite young leaders. By the way, congratulations on being nominated top 40, under 40 in the Atlanta Business Chronicle.
Thank you.
That's quite an honor, but you're a fun-loving, high-energy, on-purpose, intentional kind of guy.
Man, I hope to be and try to be, but that describes me well, so thank you.
Well, here, I want to dive straight in. What you've done with Booster Enterprises is phenomenal. I mean, to steal a word, it's remarkable. Does that sound familiar?
It's a good word. True.
But in all seriousness, a lot of people may not know what Booster Enterprises is all about. So tell me a little bit about what Boosters is.
All right. Well, one, thank you again for having me. Admired you, your enthusiasm and leadership. You're a great voice. Thanks for being a mentor to many of us.
Well, thank you.
Two, I don't deserve all the credit for sure, a little bit. But our organization's grown a lot in the past 17 years since my wife and I started it. I'll give many others credit, starting with her and a just absolutely incredible team. We feel like there's a story bigger than us, and when you live for a story bigger than you, serving your clients and pouring into culture, every day feels like a joy and fun. There's definitely challenges and obstacles, but it's exciting. We've been on a rocket ship for 17 years, and growth is fun, and serving people's fun, and innovation's fun, but it all starts with our team and our culture and then goes outward. So the idea I had in my college dorm, it's a college dorm story, actual college dorm in Birmingham, Alabama, Sanford University. I played baseball in high school and then in college for 2 years, realized I wasn't going to be a pro, so I'm done with my baseball career. So I started doing baseball lessons. I love the game, but the college game, unless you're a superstar, is challenging and time consuming. So I started doing one-on-one baseball lessons with elementary kids, and I loved it. And now I have 4 kids of my own, and I'm coaching their teams, and it's a lot of fun. I love the character lessons you can teach through sports. There's just so many connections and common denominators that sports brings out character and reveals character. So one day, one of the students that I was giving a lesson to, his name was Carter, he was a 5th grader, and he said, "Coach, before we begin our baseball lesson, my school's doing a fundraiser, and would you mind buying cookie dough or a magazine or some wrapping paper?" And I thought, I'm a college student without money. Little did I know at the time, no one really needs any of that. People just buy it to help the school.
Of course.
Well, rewind 20 years, when I was in elementary school, or 15 years or so, I had participated in a fun run that my dad and my school had organized. So I got the phone, or finished our lesson and got on the phone with my dad and said, "Dad, why doesn't this school do a fundraiser?" Well, we do that, and some schools do that, but let me tell you something. Everyone should do it, but it is a lot of work. But you are right, running instead of buying products is better, but I'll bet a school would pay you to organize it. And I could kind of tell you what I learned. He was just a volunteer dad. So I went around with an idea to 50 schools over 2 years, my junior, senior year of college. Finally one school in Birmingham. In fact, it was our 17th year of serving them last week. So I call them every year. Coach Bill Wilder, and said, "Thanks for the opportunity. You never forget your first client." And we wouldn't be here without him saying yes to, at the time, a 21-year-old with an idea, asking people, "Hey, trust me, the college kid, with your kids and your money." Right? Just a little bit of a risk.
Two of the most precious things that they have.
So rightly so, he said, "Listen, I'm kind of on the hook for this. We'll bring you in. We'll cancel the cookie dough sale. We'll cancel the car washes, but you need to guarantee us $3,000. That's what we need to raise money for our uniforms that we're trying to buy." And I said, "Okay, I'll do it." I was guaranteeing at the time my honeymoon money. My wife and my fiance and I were about to get married. So it was a big risk at the time. It raised the school $21,000.
Wow.
It surprised me more than it surprised Coach. I said, of course it's going to work. And I thought it could work, but it takes the first client and it takes a risk. And it worked.
Yeah.
I graduated, I got married, I went to grad school in Kentucky. And then fast forward the next 3 years, that school called back, another school heard of it. I'm in Kentucky. My wife and I just start traveling all over the country.
So it's not just about fundraising though, and this is what I love about it. It's about character development.
That's right.
And it's about health.
Yep.
And it's about getting kids excited to change the world.
Yes, that's it.
And that's
right.
That's a bold statement. I mean,
change the world is
W, change the world. I mean, that's really what you're out to do. So how do you incorporate that into what you do?
Yeah, well, if you come by our office, you'll see huge 7-foot tall, big, bold CTW letters in the front of everything. We love making a difference. Yeah. I left part of the story out. My mom was an educator for 35 years. So if we can take away the non-educational components from our primary program, the Boosterthon Fun Run,
right,
let the schools educate, and we'll take out the fundraising, the communication, the promotion.
So they don't have to worry about that.
Worry about, you're an educator, you're the best in the world, you're changing the world. Mm-hmm. So the number one way we can change the world is to empower more world changers, allow them to multiply, run in their lanes, achieve their strength, and we love it. So we get to focus on what we're good at, specialize, and they get to focus more on education.
Well, and I hate to throw numbers out because they're constantly moving, and by the time we air this, it's going to have changed again. But 7.2 million students, $220 million raised, 17 years at this. That's phenomenal.
300 million raised was the last year's stats.
Oh, okay.
We have schools have profited, not total raise. There's some expenses, of course, to pay for the program. But $300 million elementary schools have raised since we've started. And it was a 220 last year. So
unbelievable. Unbelievable.
It'll be about 400 in about a year and a half.
So how many team members do you have working with you now?
By the time this airs, we will have 1,000 team members. We're about 970 right now across the country.
And you're in almost every state?
We are in every state as of a month ago. We signed up our
Congratulations.
last state. Thank you. So exciting to serve the country. Yeah. Any and every state, lots of different service levels. They could have the full service team or kind of the booster in a box, customer service, just the technology piece.
Right.
But we love enabling world changers to do what they do best by eliminating that work from them. And in doing so, doubling their money. So they can raise twice as much money.
So much more impactful.
That's right.
That's great.
Right. The character lessons are very robust. It's a full character campaign that our team walks the school through. It's inclusive of pretty much any worldview. We're really teaching virtues,
right?
Honesty, wisdom, grit. Right? I mean, no one disagrees with this, but do we spend enough time talking about it? So the millions of students, 3.5 million this year that we can be in front of, challenging and motivating and inspiring, and then our team coming alongside and saying, these are admirable virtues and values that the world will be changed if you start talking about these and live them out. So.
I love it. So you're talking about virtues, you're talking about character development, you're taking the fundraising aspect and you're making it easy for the teaching team because they don't have to worry about all the details of that.
Yep.
You're raising funds to help support school educational programs, and all the while you're changing the world because you're impacting young lives who are going to be the leaders of the future.
That's right.
But let me shift it for just a second because you have attracted, in my estimation, one of the most dynamic, young, on-purpose teams that I've ever seen. So how do you recruit? That has a lot to do. I want to get into a conversation about how do you inspire and engage millennials, because that's a big piece. But I also want to just talk to you about the whole idea of culture.
Sure.
Because I know you're a culture guru and you understand the impact of that. So those kind of go together. Where would you like to start?
Yeah, well, I love it all. Let me jump into recruit for 1 second. It's the first word you said. We've stolen a page out of the Chick-fil-A playbook. We try not to use the word recruit. We use their word select.
Okay.
Love the idea of recruiting. Sometimes recruiting means I'm just chasing whoever's available. Wait a minute. These are kids. This is funds raised. We want the highest integrity team members. We want wise team members. We want team members with values and virtues that want to make a difference and change the world, that are missional, that are living for a story bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
So as we've grown, we want to have more talent want to work for us than we want to select. We want to be selected. We even measure the ratios of applicants to hires. We want that to grow. We want to be more selective every year. Not that necessarily people we don't hire are bad people. Most of them are incredible people, but what we're looking for is the best fit.
Right.
So how do we tell the story of what we do and who we are, hear the story of who they are and who they want to become, and as much as we can, put them in a real world situation. We will meet at Starbucks and say, tell me about yourself and look at your resume. The truth is, if we don't do that, we're hiring mostly, at least the first hires are under 25. I think this year, We hired 160 new team members, 140 of them. It was their first post-college job.
Okay.
So if we don't ask for the resume, their parents, who are trying to help in that season, think, is this company credible?
Yeah.
So we want the resume. But what grade they made in history their freshman year is not nearly as relevant as how much do they care for people.
Right.
And we want to show us examples. Tell us about, what does customer service mean? How do you go above and beyond? How do you want to make someone that you're serving feel? Tell me about that. Have you ever led before? So as many open-ended questions as we can to figure out who they are. We can train the skill if we have the right person with the right work ethic and the right growth mindset.
That's right.
So skills matter immensely, but they are easier to train than character.
So you hire for values,
Yes.
or you hire for virtues,
That's right.
and you train for skill.
That's right.
And I love the idea you're talking about being selective, because in order to be selective, you have to be attractive.
Yes.
You have to attract a lot of people, but in that way, they sort of self-select. So now we're talking culture.
Yep, that's right.
Because I work with organizations all the time that go, we have a hiring problem, unemployment's at an all-time low, and there just aren't people out in the market looking for jobs. And I continually encourage them to think it through from the standpoint, if you have a hiring problem, it's not a hiring problem, it's a culture problem.
That's right.
Because you have the right culture, it will attract
the best
talent.
Yep.
People will beat down the doors to be a part of what you're doing, and that's what you're experiencing.
Leaders want to work with leaders. In
Right.
fact, when you're more selective and you talk about being selective and you actually are, the higher caliber leader you attract. I mean, I don't want to play for a C team. I don't want to join a team that everyone wins and everyone gets on. I mean, I want to know if I've made this, and then if I get promoted, that I'm part of the best. I've done something special, and I've earned it. So there's a balance of who you are and what you do. We want both, the identity and the works to both, and we spend a lot of time just discovering your strengths, your identity, what makes you come alive. We're all very unique and wired differently, but we want to breathe life into you and encourage you and find what is your niche. Here's what the job is, but what are you best at, and how can we fan your flame and give you some energy in that direction.
So talk to me about this idea of culture.
Okay.
Because yours is a fun-loving, high-energy,
Yes.
on-purpose kind of an environment. But talk to me about culture, why that's so important, not just for Booster.
Yep.
Why that's so important for any organization.
Well, Peter Drucker, who I've learned you sound smart in any interview if you quote Drucker, so I try to quote him at least once. My favorite Drucker quote, and so much so that it's in 15-foot letters in the center of our home office here in Alpharetta, Georgia. Culture eats strategy for breakfast.
And lunch.
And lunch and dinner.
And a midnight snack,
That's
too.
right.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean strategy is not important. It is very important.
That's right.
You will not make much progress without strategy. However, the world's best strategy without a culture of the right people in the right seats on the bus, it's Jim Collins, you're going to go nowhere.
That's right.
So I would take an incredibly talented missional team, and we'll talk about and figure out the strategy over the world's best strategy and no team to execute it. So that matters immensely. I've also heard recently that the organization's culture is a window to the CEO's soul or the founder's soul or whoever the leader is,
Right.
which is convicting and also exciting for me. So when I see that our culture is fun, I'm an ENFP Myers-Briggs and a Enneagram 7.
Okay.
If you step foot within 30 feet of our office, you'll know that some founder once upon a time had some of those characteristics.
That's true. That's very true.
If you come to our office, there's a very good chance you will be covered in confetti, run through a tunnel, go on a tour of the office via a kid's scooter, probably be high-fived at least 25 times.
And I think I've done all that.
And you'll see a big CTW and shining lights in your first. That's the first impression tour.
Yeah.
But that's us. It would be weird if that was
didn't do
inauthentic. If someone's listening to this and they think they need to go, that might not be your culture. That is our culture.
Right.
One of our virtues is celebration. It's our sixth virtue. So celebration is authentic to who we are.
Right.
In many ways, it's our business model. We like to celebrate schools and students and communities. We think people come alive when they're celebrated for the right reasons, for who they are and for what they do. Not in a cheesy way, not in an inauthentic way, but if you do something worth celebrating, we want people to know it. We want to affirm that strength. So it's encouraging to know that this hunch I had, I've never had a business class, so I don't want to mess it up now as we've grown a little bit by taking too many. I'm a big learner, but I wasn't a business major. But I just always had a hunch that if I could create an environment that I wanted to work for, it would attract people like me. Now, I made some mistakes early. I attracted people almost exclusively like me. We had a lot of gaps in systems and organization, in sequencing, in details, and we needed that at a season. But in the launch season of our organization, the fact that I attracted a lot of entrepreneurial thinkers was exactly what we needed. And then over time, I wanted to expand our culture, not change it, but just mature it to where it would also attract complementary leaders, differing in skill sets, but aligned in mission and values.
Got it.
So we've always been, and as we've grown, I see organizations say, we're just too busy now to start really emphasizing culture, or we used to do that, but now we don't have the time. There's never been a year that I've talked about, or spent time in the area of culture less than I did the year before. If I have a little bit of margin, I am investing it in our culture. That's the highest ROI.
So define culture for me.
It is tough to define. It is the air you breathe. There's one definition of it. It is the values, virtues, and habits of an organization. It's the aspirational and actionable characteristics and traits of an individual and an organization. Who do I want to be and who am I? And somewhere in the middle of my aspirations I never quite hit and my actions that I always hit, there's that tension and in the collective momentum of the group saying this is who we are and who we want to be.
Right.
What are our daily habits, actions, behaviors? That is our culture. It's just a combination of the people you have and who they are and what they do.
Sometimes I describe it as how we play in the sandbox together.
Yes.
It's the environment that we create.
Yep.
It's a reflection of our virtues, our values, but it is our behaviors and it's our beliefs as well. It's a combination of all that, but it's
all the little quirky things you do that make you unique.
That's right. It is a reflection of who you are and who your team is and who you aspire to be. It's all of that. But when it's right, it feels good. It feels natural, and I think that's the important part. Because, like you said, not everybody's going to create that kind of a fun, lively environment, but that's where you work and play.
That's right.
You're dealing a lot with young students in elementary school. It has to be high energy. It's got to be engaging. It's got to be captivating. It's got to be creative, and that's what is reflected in your team.
Well, let me tell you a story about today. You'll love this, Randy. This is just how much culture means. I laughed and cried at the exact same time about 2 hours ago. We also have started a spirit wear company called Booster Spirit Wear. Our schools get T-shirts when they run laps, and we just eventually insource that service. And now we print about 4 million T-shirts a year, the largest student T-shirt provider. So we started that from scratch. A really talented team. Insourced it, did it. Well, it's an incredible team that we've had for 3 years who has been working in America. Her dad is a U.S. citizen. She was born in Mexico, so she's been going through the citizenship process. I got an email at 10 o'clock last night, sent to the executive team. You're not going to believe it. Maria passed her test. We got to celebrate her 9 a.m. when she walks in the office tomorrow. So the team made up some reason. Let's have a meeting at 8:50. Let's all meet in the back. We want to talk through. Well, she came in. I should show you the video. She walked into the main part of the warehouse. We had 100 people there with confetti cannons. We told everybody wear anything red, white, and blue you can. We were playing American songs. We were literally, I had a top hat, Uncle Sam hat, and waving a flag, and we're all crying, laughing, celebrating, confetti cannon at the same time. So now that's us. But we're excited for her. America's better today because Maria is now a citizen, and she's just done an incredible job working with us, and to achieve that on her. So we wanted to celebrate not just her professional achievements, but something, maybe one of the most significant things in her personal life in recent years. So the fact that I didn't originate that email, I just got it, said this happened, and I showed up, and there was 100 people cheering for her, was pretty special.
Well, what that reflects, it reflects that your people are deeply connected.
Yes.
And they're compassionate. And they feel like they're a part of a family. They work like a team, but they're loving like a family, and that's huge. So let me bridge this over into, let's talk about millennials, because your team is young. You're hiring these, I don't want to call them kids, but you're hiring these young college graduates. It's probably their first opportunity to step into the business world. And you're selecting the cream of the crop. But talk to us about how do you inspire and how do you effectively engage millennials? Because there's a lot of talk about the generational differences, and everybody's really wanting to make sure that they provide what they need for the next generation to be successful. Talk to me a little bit about that.
All right. Well, one, I'd say, it doesn't fall off a cliff immediately. You don't go from boomers to Gen X to, it's not like 1 year, like that's the birthday and you're done with these characteristics, you move to these. However, if you haven't figured out how to recruit millennials and you recruit young, I wouldn't say give it up, but Gen Z is coming. This is the new generation. It doesn't happen immediately, but we're already seeing differences in the 150 people we just hired and the few hundred in the pipeline that we will hire over the next couple of years. What matters to them, their EVP, their employee value proposition, is slightly different. The questions they're asking, this is Gen Z now I'm talking about. So we are revamping and retooling our employee value proposition to get ready for what's to come, and who's currently in college and for the next 15 years. They were shaped by, this is Gen Z, I'm still talking about the financial crisis, 9/11, digital natives at an entirely different level, more into security. They're actually more like baby boomers in some ways. They're asking more security questions and long-term questions and not quite as willing to take risks. So we're preparing for that. But our existing team, 90% of our team members, maybe even 93% are millennials. So we're talking 930 of our 1,000 team members are millennials, of which I would consider myself one. I'm 39, I'm right on the edge, but I think and feel and act far more like one than another generation. Because I am one, so I'm biased in this, but I am optimistic about millennials. They get a bad rap. I think it's next year they'll be the majority of the workforce if they're not already, and sometime in the next 12 months. And for the next 20 years, they'll be the biggest part of the working world.
Agreed.
I love the idealism of optimistic millennials coupled with work ethic and grit. I think that's a deadly combination for world change. There are some millennials that talk about making a difference and never do anything. But the vast majority of millennials that I know, and we select great ones, they are very idealistic and at the same time incredibly hardworking. And practical enough to say the world change that we seek is not going to happen tomorrow morning. And I think that time frame is what sometimes gives millennials a bad rap, that they're taking the short view, or I want to do this and see the payoff immediately. And we all probably struggle with that at times. But if you take the long view, and one of the advantages of being a privately held organization, we're not reporting to Wall Street. We're taking the long view. I love what I do. It's a mission. I don't want to sell. I want to work here and make this impact for the next 50 years.
Right.
So we're always talking about, what about the next 3 years? What about the next 5 years? What does the long view look like? Who do you want to be when you're 30, when you're 40, when you're 50? I mean, those conversations are incredible to have with millennials because it brings out the aspirations in them. What difference do you want to make? But it gives them a time frame that's realistic and doable.
Right. Let me check some. So when we're talking about millennials, I found, in my experience, them to be some of the most passionate, most purpose-driven of any generation when you have the strong work ethic attached to that.
Yep.
So how do you help tap into their passion? How do you help tap into their purpose? Because I think that's what draws them to an organization like yours.
They do. I mean, we have the letters CTW and the words change the world everywhere you look. On everybody's t-shirt, on their sleeve, on their notebook, in the office. I mean, it's authentic. It's who we are. It's what we want to do. And there's a lot of ways we want to do it. To your earlier question, I feel like the greatest way I can change the world is to equip my team to do it. So build the right culture, build the right team, empower them. I love creating opportunity and seeing new things take off where new team members come on board and get to serve. But we put our purpose statement, change the world, everywhere. If you don't want to change the world, you don't want to work for us. And you know it before you've wasted your time in the interview process. But we talk about it every day. I mean, on Intel reports they fill out, what did you do to change the world today? How did you make a difference? What did you do that was... So we're not just talking about the job itself. Not many people are attracted to the function of the job. It's really about what's the purpose, the why, and who am I doing it with.
That's right.
So if we start with why, and back to Jim Collins, if it's who over what, the what matters greatly, but the why is first, and then who do I get to do it with, and who do I get to do it for, and then what is the function that I fulfill with this group of team members serving the great clients for a greater purpose to make a difference. If that order's right, millennials will flock to the organization. So
do you see yourself building leaders for the future?
That's what I wake up every day thinking, how can I build and pour into? And not just 9 to 5, or for us 7 to 5 half the time. How can I do anything appropriate in the day job that somehow affects the 5 to 9 or the personal life? Is there anything I could do to equip them in? Is there any book I could give them? Paradigm shift in thinking, way to challenge them, video, resource. We just gave everybody gift cards to go buy any book they want around an area of passion. You know, we said, pursue wisdom. That's one of our virtues. Here's a $20 gift card. Doesn't matter what it is. Buy a book around your passion and then share what you learned with others. So anything that we can do to equip them to follow their passion, and then talk about it in a context of community is a win.
So what I love is that you're taking these young people, you're giving them an opportunity literally to catch a vision for changing the world. And then whether they're with you for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, however long their run is with you, then you're launching them into successful careers because you've equipped them literally to go out into the marketplace and make a difference.
That's right. Along those lines, millennials, not as much Gen Z, security matters more, but and for years, if someone left me as the founder or left our organization I'd get a little nervous or insecure. Where are they going? And now we celebrate it. We literally celebrate.
Yeah.
If we played a part for 3 months or 3 years or 10 years, and whatever might be next for you, we hope most of them, we hope the majority of them stay with us. But we celebrate it. Talk about it. Let's just create an open conversation. Great. How can we help you land in a place that might be a better fit for the next season of your life? So doing that, and appropriately blending personal and professional in the appropriate way that doesn't distract from work. But we're aware that you're humans that are only working, a fraction of your life, and there's a lot of other important stuff from family to community to interests. And as much as we can appropriately engage in that and talk about it and help, we love to do it. I think that's attractive.
Absolutely.
To millennials and to most people.
So talk to me for just a second. Team leaders are out there. They don't have the opportunity to start their own business. You've been doing this now for 17 years. Yep. You've grown this fantastic culture. You're attracting all this young talent, and you're doing the remarkable things that you're doing. What lessons or principles would you impart to someone who, say, is in a large corporate structure, they're responsible for a small team, 3 to 10 people possibly? Yeah. What lessons on leadership would you impart to them to challenge them to think through the idea that even whether or not the corporation as a whole has this dynamic, fun, purpose-driven kind of culture, what can they do with their team? Yeah,
well, their team is their culture. So obviously the more influence you have, the more you can control culture. But you control the 3 feet around you. I mean, there is your culture. And really, the truth is you can't control too much beyond the 3 feet around you. Whether it's your phone in your hand, the people whose eyes you look at, the person you're meeting with. I mean, the ideal is you want to change the world, and let's just drop it down to practical.
That's right.
If I extended my arms, who would I bump into? It might be digital, but how can I change the environment? Who do I want to be? What are the ideals of the world? Joy. You know what? Today, I'm going to be joyful. I'm going to smile more. I'm going to ask questions more than I talk. I'm going to ask follow-up questions to show that I'm interested. I'm going to celebrate the personal and professional things in people's lives. Great, I've decided to be joyful today. If you just make that simple decision, and maybe you chart it. I'm big on charting things and just seeing so I can see the effect and the ROI. Today's my joy day. Okay, I'm going to try this for 2 weeks. The smile, maybe the thank you note that expresses joy, whatever it might be, and just see, am I measuring? Is this culture catching on? Are people responding? So people have more influence than they think. They have it especially in the 3 feet around them. They can control self-control and then just the influence to those they bump into every day. But you can always carve out a little bit of time and a little bit of money to go above and beyond and be distinctive and to be remarkable. So to a manager that has a little bit of P&L discretion or time, hey, listen, in a month, that Friday afternoon, those last 2 hours, there's something I want to do. Let's take a few $100s and let's do something that is probably out of the office. It could be some team building event that's been done before, or it could be we're just going to go have lunch or coffee and we're going to talk about zoom out for a minute. Who do you want to be in 10 years? That's a great question I love to ask. Tell me about your life 10 years from today. Just imagine, what does it look like?
Yeah.
And man, people reveal who they want to become, things they're passionate about, and that's the person I work with for 8 hours a day. I need to know that stuff, So there's a lot of influence they can have.
Well, I love the statement that you made. You said people have more influence than they think.
Yes.
And when it comes to culture, culture is crafted one conversation, one encounter at a time. Yeah. And so to have that positive, upbeat attitude where you're leaving a positive wake in all that you do, and you and I have both seen this happen, where one group within the life of an organization, no matter how small it may be, if they begin to craft a culture that's compelling,
that's right.
It's amazing how it can become catalytic and how it catches on and literally can spread across an entire enterprise.
Yes.
And so I love the fact you start where you are, be the change that you want to see in the world, and let it grow from there. So that's great stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'd write down what you want it to be. Do you want to be a more humble organization, a better learning organization, what are the adjectives that you want to become, that you want your organization to become? Spend a month just thinking through, are these the right 3 adjectives? What are your own team values, in a sense, that you need to aspire to? And then think about strategically, how can we become this? I mean, and don't be afraid to ask your team.
Yeah.
You have to do it alone and come off the mountain with the perfect answer. None of us really do that. We ask, hey, I think we can be more. Who do you want to become? What if we just surveyed 10 of us and just asked, where are we? Rank it. What's the best version of ourselves collectively? How do we do it? Bringing people into the conversation. People grow into the conversations you create around them.
I love that statement.
So let's create them together. Let's not just have it by ourselves and then drop the law on them. Let's have a conversation, which is, I think we're doing really great, and I think we can do better. How can we improve?
Good. Okay, so pause and reflect on this. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
What's the greatest life lesson that you've learned recently?
Wow, that's a great one. This is probably obvious, but to those that are at my season or a season beyond, we have 4 kids. My oldest is in 8th grade.
Okay.
In my mind, I had her yesterday, and I'm looking. I have an app called T0 that counts down whatever you want it to count down. Mm-hmm. And I looked yesterday, and she's in college in 5 years. So the stat that I heard this summer was, parents, by the time your child enters 8th grade, you've spent 75% of the time you'll ever spend with them.
Wow.
Well, that can't be true. I started asking parents, well, at Christmas time and this time, and I see them, but in terms of just time with them in the house. So time is short is the life principle that I've been pondering lately. How do I maximize it? How do I speed up some things and slow down others? How do I say no to the good and yes to the great? Mm-hmm. And I love saying yes to lots of things, but I think in the season ahead, I've got to start saying no to more things that are really good so I can add value where it matters most. So prioritize what matters most. Time is short. How do I maximize and value that?
That's so true. My wife, Luann, this morning, she posted on Facebook a picture that popped up in her stream of our 2 youngest, like 12 years ago.
Wow.
And I just thought, where did the time go? It's crazy. But life is short.
It is short.
So use your time wisely.
Yep. Make a difference. Change the world.
Yeah. So here, how can someone get the level of energy that you've got?
Well, for a few years, many years, maybe the educational years, this was not necessarily a gift. I had to start in my own organization and craft the culture where energy and enthusiasm and maybe a little hyperactivity is valued, not punished.
I got it. I love it.
I'm just born with a lot of energy.
Well, do me a favor. Try to hit a few less golf balls over into my backyard when you play the course.
Don't
Can
play
you do
often,
that?
but you see how good I am. Huh?
I get all your balls with a smiley face on
there
it.
It is.
I don't know if those are actually
American
yours.
flag.
But Chris, it is fun watching you from a distance. Love your team. Love what you do. Love the impact that you're having in schools across the country. Just want to encourage you to keep it going. You keep waving the flag, and by all means, keep impacting young lives, because you really are changing the world. Thank you for being a part of the show. Hey, one last question I'm going to leave you with. If there was one thing that you would impart to young leaders, what would that be? What's the one thing I haven't asked you about that you'd like to share as we wrap things up?
That's great. There's 2 things that jump off the page. I think everyone, and the sooner they do it, the better, should try to start their own business. Try to start it. Just do it. You'll be surprised. It'll pull out passion. You'll learn a lot about yourself. You might be successful, and that'll allow you to multiply. I also think we talk about values, and for Booster now we call them virtues. Mm-hmm. Always in a corporate, collective, business, organizational context, and we rarely talk about it personally. What are my individual values? What is my family's values? And I think really getting clear on what you value, what your virtues are, who you aspire to be individually, personally first, just allows you to really make great choices. What organization should I work with? How do I lead? Who do I hire? But getting clear on knowing yourself and leading yourself first before you take it to the world.
Love it. Thanks, man.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Great to have you hanging out this afternoon, and we'll keep an eye on what you're doing, because you are changing the world, and look forward to seeing what the next ripples look like.
Thank you, Randy.
All right, buddy. Thanks.